Hi, welcome back to Grains of Grace podcast. My name's Lexi Georgia, and I am the podcast host. Yesterday or last week or whenever you ended up listening to the last podcast, we went through Esther 1 with my friend Ellie Hunter, and today we're going to be going through Esther 2. Now, I would highly recommend that you whip out your Bible. I am reading in the She Reads Truth Bible and Christian Standard Version, but you are welcome to read in whatever you like and whatever is most comfortable for you. If you do not have a physical Bible, you can go look it up in your phone or whatever you're listening on, the Google search, and just look up YouVersion Bible, and you can also plug that into your Apple Store or your Google Play Store, and you can download that app. Another really good app for you to have is Enduring Word Commentary. It is a blue app. The icon is blue, and it truly will help you understand the Bible. I use it a lot, and I am going to reference it today. Okay, so let's go through Esther 2. The title is A Search for a New Queen. Sometime later, when King Xerxes' rage had cooled down, he remembered Vashti, what she had done, and what was decided against her. The king's personal attendant suggested, let a search be made for beautiful young virgins for the king. Let the king appoint commissioners in province of his kingdom, so that they may gather all the beautiful young virgins to the harem of the fortress of Susa. Put them under the supervision of Haggai, the king's eunuch, the keeper of women, and give them to the required beauty treatments. Then the young woman who pleases the king will become queen instead of Vashti. This suggestion pleased the king, and he did accordingly. Sorry I stumbled across my words there. We ended at 4. I just wanted to say that a eunuch is like basically a servant, and it is very, in this time period, it's very prevalent where they're at that if you are going to be married, you have to be a virgin, and if you're not a virgin, you won't get married at all. So that is some historical background that is important for this. Carrying on in 5, it says, in the fortress of Susa, there was a Jewish man named Mordecai, son of Jar, son of Shimei, son of Kish, and a Benjamite. Kish had been taken into exile from Jerusalem while the other captives when King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, having some notifications come through on my computer. When King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon took King Jeconiah of Judah into exile, Mordecai was the legal guardian of his cousin Hadassah, that is Esther, because she had no father or mother. So what that's saying is that Mordecai is Esther's cousin, but because Esther has no parents, he took her in as his own daughter. The young woman had beautiful figure and was extremely good looking. When her mother and father had died, Mordecai had adopted her as his own daughter. When the king's command and edict became public knowledge, when many young women were gathered at the fortress of Susa under Haggai's supervision, Esther was taken into the palace, into the supervision of Haggai, keeper of the women. The young woman had pleased him and gained his favor so that he accelerated the process of the beauty treatments and the special diet she received. He assigned 7 hand-picked female servants to her from the palace and transferred her and the servants to the harem's best quarters. Esther did not reveal her ethnicity or family background because Mordecai had ordered her not to make them known. Every day Mordecai took a walk in front of the harem's courtyard to learn how Esther was doing and what was happening to her. Esther's ethnic or family background is that she's a Jew, and she doesn't want them to know she's a Jew. And Mordecai is also Jew, so that's why they're not saying that. During the year before each young woman's turn to go to King Xerxes, the harem regulation required her to receive beauty treatments with oil of myrrh for 6 months and then with perfumes and cosmetics for another 6 months. When the young woman would go to the king, she was given whatever she requested to take with her from the harem to the palace. She would go in the evening, and in the morning she would return to a second harem under the supervision of the king's eunuch, Shagaz, keeper of the concubines. She never went to the king again unless he desired her and summoned her by name. So she's not allowed to come up in front of the king unless he says, "Oh, I want her." Okay. I'm just looking through enduring word to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. Let's continue on. We're starting back up at Esther 3:15. Or Esther 2:15, sorry. Esther was the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had adopted her as his own daughter. When her time came to return to the king, she did not ask for anything except what Haggai, the king's eunuch, keeper of the women, suggested. Esther gained favor in the eyes of everyone who saw her. She was taken to King Xerxes in the palace in the 10th month, the month of Tebeth, the 7th year of his reign. The king loved Esther more than all the other women. She won more favor and approval from him than did any of the other virgins. He placed the royal crown on her head and made her queen in place of Vashti. The king held a great banquet for all of his officials and staff. It was Esther's banquet. He freed his provinces from tax payments and gave gifts worthy of the king's bounty. So basically, the king chooses Esther and he throws a party. And he's like, "Guys, this is my new wife. This is my new wife." Make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. Mordecai saves the king. When the virgins were gathered for a second time, Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate. Esther still did not reveal her family background or her ethnicity as Mordecai had directed. She obeyed Mordecai's direct orders as she always had while he raised her. During those days, while Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate, Bigthan and Teresh, two of the king's eunuchs, guarded the entrance, became infuriated, and planned to assassinate King Xerxes. When Mordecai learned of the plot, he reported it to Queen Esther, and she told the king on Mordecai's behalf. When the report was investigated and verified, both the men were hanged on gallows. This event was recorded in the historical record in the king's presence. Yeah. So, a lot just happened in that tiny, tiny little paragraph. So, let's talk through it. Mordecai sat at the king's gate, and Esther had not revealed herself to the king or his people because she didn't want them to know that she was the daughter of Jewish exiles that had died, obviously, because later on in this book, one of the king's close men decides to plot the Jews, and she couldn't have saved them if, I'm getting ahead of myself, but she couldn't have saved them if they had known, because they wouldn't have made her queen. So, okay, talking through this, sorry. Also, I'm not gonna, when I'm, not talking, I'm not gonna cut anything out, because I don't believe, and, A, it's less work, and B, I think everything should be authentic, and so, if I'm getting quiet, you can scoot ahead to the next part, but I just don't think that I should be cutting anything out, so I'm not going to. I'm looking at enduring word right now. Sorry, I made a noise. So let's read through 21 again. So during those days when Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate, two of the king's eunuchs who guarded the entrance became infuriated and planned to assassinate King Xerxes. So Mordecai overhears this plan, this plot to kill the king. And he's like, oh goodness. So he tells Esther, because he's like, Esther, bro, like these guys are planning to kill your husband. Like, you need to let him know. So Esther told the king and was like, hey, Mordecai found out that these people are planning to kill you, but I just wanted you to know. And they looked into it more, realized that, oh my gosh, Mordecai's telling the truth. Esther is telling the truth, like it says in 23. And it was recorded in the historical record in the king's palace. Now, this is important because in this moment in time, Mordecai overhears this. And by telling Esther and having Esther tell the king on Mordecai's behalf, they are growing trust with the king, and growing favor in him by telling him that, like, these people are planning, like, plotting to kill the king. Like, that was a big trust building moment, and it's actually really, I feel like it's truly really pivotal to the story. Looking through this, though, I want to be honest with you. I want to look through every story and find God in it. And I think in chapter 2, what this is teaching me about God is that I would say it's okay to hold your tongue. Esther is not telling the king of her background because she knows the Lord wants her, and Mordecai has ordered her to hold her tongue. And to know when to hold your tongue is something that shows that you are very in tune with the Lord, and that you are obedient. And I think that it is beautiful that she is so obedient to Mordecai and the Lord. The next thing I would say that this teaches me about God is, sorry, turn the wrong page. Oh, and you can see that in chapter 2, what I was just talking about. I had a verse reference for that. 2:10 was my reference for that. Esther did not reveal her ethnicity or her family background because Mordecai had ordered her not to make them known. The other thing I would say that I can see God in this is that if God is going to give you something that's for you, it's going to land right in your lap. Like, God knew that Mordecai was going to need to build trust with the king, and he planted that, those people plotting, and he knew that Mordecai was going to overhear that, and the Lord put that there for Mordecai to hear, and that allowed Mordecai to build relationship with the king and favor with the king, which was something that he wouldn't have had if the Lord hadn't put those plans in place for Mordecai to overhear that. And I think that's another thing, is that if it's from the Lord, it'll fall right in your lap. Is another thing that I'm learning about the Lord, is that he has everything planned out, and you cannot put God on a timeline. Yes. So that is Esther chapter 2. I know the first episode was literally half of what this, or double what this episode is, but I was so excited to get to go through this with you, and I'm so excited to get to go through the rest of this book with you. I believe Esther is only 10 chapters, and the chapters are pretty short, so I'm hoping, yes, chapter 10 is literally a paragraph, guys. So I am hoping that we will be able to get through all of this soon, because I just cannot wait to be able, sorry, I had to burp, to be able to just grow in the Lord through all of this. I'm open for any feedback. If you have any feedback, you know, if you're on YouTube, leave a comment. If you are on Spotify, you can actually, there should be a way for you to suggest or leave a comment, or you can comment on my socials. That would be at Grains of Grace Podcast on Instagram. And I also have Grains of Grace Podcast on YouTube. So let's go ahead and pray. I'll pray and close this out. Yes, okay, so good. Lord, I just want to thank you for this time spent in your word. I pray that if anything was my opinion, Lord, and not from you, that it would just fall on deaf ears. But Lord, that anything that is your word, that is truth, Lord, that we would get it out of this and that we would be able to apply it to our life and apply it to learning more about you. Lord, I pray that we would just be able to use these resources that we have to chase after your own heart. Lord, I pray for the other person on the other side of this screen. Lord, I pray that you would be with them because you know their heart and you know them, Lord. You made them. We thank you for them, Lord. I pray that you would help them to know that they are loved, Lord, that you would hold them close to your heart. I pray that this word